ever wondered what would have happened if human beings had just one ear placed somewhere, say on top of our heads, or say in the middle of our foreheads? To get an answer, do this little experiment with your friend.
Oh my god, don't block my nose.
Oh.
Ouch. This is too tight. I can't even breathe.
Oh, you can.
Oh my God.
Ask your friend to close her eyes and guess the location of the source of sound.
Hey, don't try to cheat now.
I'm not cheating,
You never know.
but I can't even see. I can't even see you. Here, there you are. Got you.
Okay, let's try it again. And I bet
Again?
you. Okay, yes. And I bet you won't be able to catch me
I'm
this time.
sure I'm going to catch you again.
Let's see.
As you saw, she could make a correct guess when the sound came from a
we're starting now.
side.
Are you going to do
Just wait and watch.
the same game again?
Tell me where I am.
You're in the front somewhere. I can't catch you. Where are you? Where did you go?
Where I am? Tell me.
You're in the front somewhere.
Are you sure?
Yeah. But where did you go?
But she got confused when the sound came from the front or the back.
Where I am?
You are doing some tricks. You're up to tricks.
Are you sure? Tell me where I am.
You're somewhere here. I know it. You're hiding from me.
Here is an explanation for that.
What am I supposed to do?
Come on, where I am? Okay, enough of this. You lost this.
When the sound comes from the left, the wave reaches the left ear a fraction of a second before the right ear. Thus, there is a slight phase difference between the sounds perceived by the left ear and the right ear. The brain guesses the location of the sound from this phase difference. When the source of sound is near the right ear, the wave hitting the right ear is slightly ahead in phase as compared to the wave hitting the left ear. When the source of sound is bang in front, both the ears receive the sound simultaneously and there is no phase difference. When the source is right behind our head, there is no phase difference between the waves hitting the left ear and the right ear.
You're somewhere here. I know it. You're hiding from me.
So the listener cannot make out whether the sound is coming from the front or the back.
Come on, where I am?
The ability to locate the source of sound by hearing through both the ears is called binaural hearing.
Oh my god. You're right here.
Normally, the sources of sound are visible to us. So as we grow up in our sound environment, the brain gets conditioned to correlate a particular phase difference with an approximate location of the sound vis-a-vis the listener's position.
Okay, let's play this game of hide and seek. You two hide. And when you're ready, just give me the signal 2-key. I'm going to come and find you guys. Alright?
2-key.
Yes. Just signal as 2-key and I'm going to find you.
Okay, fine.
What about the first prize?
Oh, that's reserved for me.
Oh, the first prize is reserved for you.
Obviously.
Then what's the need of
Then
playing
what's the need of playing?
Okay,
You should try and
let us
make me
make
lose.
it.
Make him
Let us
lose.
make it.
Okay, I'm going to
fine.
find you people. But just go and hide right now. I'm going to start the countdown.
Okay.
Do signal me, alright?
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Let us make it.
I'm starting the countdown. I'm not cheating, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are you guys ready?
2-key.
Hey, gotcha! Come out now. I gotcha. Come on out. I got you. I won. Hey, gotcha! Come on out. Gotcha, come on out now.
Thus,
I saw you.
Anuj
Just come
wins
out.
hands down
Come
in the
on.
game
Come
of
on.
hide and seek. Thus, the prey never runs into the predator, and the hunter never misses the singing bird hidden behind the leaves. Recall the heart-rending story of the Ramayana. King Dasarath had gone hunting with his entourage. His arrow never missed its target, even if it was pulled in the direction of the faintest of sounds. But that fateful day, Dasarath went horribly wrong. Shravan Kumar had come to fill water for his blind parents. Dasarath thought that a deer was drinking water. Dasarath's fatal arrow hit Shravan Kumar, who was the only support for his parents. In spite of these occasional mishaps, we wouldn't like to be those one-antennaed aliens, would we? We would rather enjoy our sound environment in all its nuances. When we go to an orchestra, the piano is to our right, the cello to our left, the drums far right, and so on. When we hear the same music at home, we would like to enjoy the same ambience. If sounds from all the 90 instruments of the orchestra is recorded on a single track, much of the richness of the music would be lost. Even if this track is played on several speakers, the ambience of the live orchestra will never be created. Recording multiple inputs onto one soundtrack is called monophonic recording. All 75 RPM records had one soundtrack, and so did all the movies of the early sound era, right up to the 50s. The first magnetic recordings were monophonic recordings. The magnetic tapes were coated with only one soundtrack. However, it must have struck somebody that it was possible to create two parallel magnetic tracks on the same tape. And thus was born the idea of stereophonic recording. Clement Adair demonstrated the first two-channel audio system in Paris in 1881 with a series of telephone transmitters connected from the stage of the Paris Opera to a suite of rooms at the Paris Electrical Exhibition, where listeners could hear a live transmission of performances through receivers for each year. Scientific American reported, "Everyone who has been fortunate enough to hear the telephones at the Palais d'Industrie has remarked that in listening with both ears at the two telephones, the sound takes a special character of relief and localization which a single receiver cannot produce. This phenomenon is very curious. It approximates to the theory of binauricular audition and has never been applied, we believe, before to produce this remarkable illusion to which may almost be given the name of auditive perspective. In the 1930s, Alan Blumlein at EMI patented stereo records, stereo films, and also surround sound. In 1937, Bell Laboratories in New York City gave a demonstration of two-channel stereophonic motion pictures developed by Bell Labs and Electrical Research Products. The very first binaural recording MGM made, although released in mono, was It Never Rains But What It Pours by Judy Garland, recorded on June 21, 1938 for the movie Love Finds Andy Hardy.
Hit your elbow, ooh, you bump your head, oh, you step on a tack and you let out a howl.
In popular usage, stereo usually means two-channel sound recording and sound reproduction using data from more than one speaker simultaneously. A stereo system can include any number of channels, such as the surround sound 5.1 channel systems used in movies. However, in common use, it refers to systems with only two channels. On each input channel of a mixer, we can find a knob called the pan pot. If the pan pot is kept at the center, the sound of that channel gets equally divided between the two output channels. When the sound thus recorded is played back, the two speakers give out exactly the same signals. The two ears of the listener receive exactly the same signal. It would sound as if the sounds were coming from straight ahead of him. Now, if the pan pot of the next channel is turned completely to the right, the entire signal will be routed to the right output channel. This sound will play back from the right speaker only, and that will be the perceived source of sound for the listener. Now, something complicated happens if the sound pan pot is kept neither at the center nor to the extreme left or extreme right. During playback, one speaker gives out a louder sound and the other speaker a slightly fainter sound. If this is the sound wave from the left speaker, this will be the sound from the right speaker. Now, how does the listener perceive this sound? His right ear will receive the louder sound of the right speaker and the slightly delayed fainter sound of the left speaker. The two signals together will form a wave like this. What about his left ear? His left ear will receive the fainter sound of the left speaker and the slightly delayed louder sound of the right ear. The two signals together will form a wave like this. Now, these two waves perceived by the two ears are somewhat similar to the two waves perceived by the ear if the source of sound was somewhere to his right. So the listener has an illusion that the piccolo is being played from somewhere there. This way, by channelizing various instruments of the orchestra unequally between the right and the left channel, the entire soundscape of an orchestra is constructed in the listener's living room.
Over the years, there has been research about how to place microphones in stereophonic microphone techniques. The most commonly used one is called XY or AB type microphone placement. Now for AB type microphone placement, we have two microphones placed side by side at an angle with each other. Now if we are using figure of 8 type of microphones, the best pattern, the best position of the microphone will be when they are crossed at 90 degrees with each other. So the figure of 8 response of one will be like this. This is the right channel, and for the left one it will be like this. This will be the left channel. So the frontal lobes will receive sounds from sources, from different sources. So if the source is on the right hand side, the sound will reach to the right microphone first, and then it will reach to the left microphone. Similarly, in case of our hearing, as we have already seen. There is one disadvantage of figure of 8 response microphones used in 90-degree cross structure. What is that? You will see that these frontal lobes will be the most effective in capturing sound. But we have the rear lobes also, which will also capture some of the sounds which are reflected and caught. So there is a possibility that these reflected sounds caught by the rear lobes of the microphones might cancel each other out. So we have to be very careful about positioning of the microphone. If we need the ambience or the reflected sounds more, only then we will use the figure of 8 response type microphones. Otherwise, there are other microphones which have different kind of polar patterns.
In the AB stereo microphone placement, two parallel omnidirectional microphones placed some distance apart capture time of arrival stereo information as well as amplitude difference information. At a distance of about 60 cm time of arrival difference for a signal reaching the first microphone, and then the other one from the other is approximately 1.5 milliseconds.
In mid-side stereo technique, we have two microphones. One is a omnidirectional microphone which captures sound all around it, and we have a figure of 8 microphone placed at 90 degree with this microphone. So the angle between these two microphones will be 90 degree.
The left and right channels are created in the mixer through a simple combination. Left equals mid plus side, right equals mid minus side. The minus effect is obtained by reversing the polarity of the side signal.
If we are using a simple mixer, we have to use 3 channels of the mixer. Put the mid-side signal into one channel number 1. Put the side signal in channel number 2. And again return that same signal to channel number 3 with a phase reversal. Now this will be the pan pot for the mid signal will be in the center. The pan pot for the channel number 2 will be towards the left, and pan pot for channel number 3 will be to the right. So we have a stereo signal coming from it. Now in order to vary the depth or the width of the stereo signal, we can pan this left and right, not to extreme left and right, but somewhere in the middle. For example, we might put it at 9 o'clock position, we might put it at 11 o'clock position, which will narrow down the stereophonic response of the microphone.
The MS configuration produces a completely mono-compatible signal. That means, if the sound recorded stereophonically is played back on a mono system, there will be practically no loss in quality.
I would like to give a very good example of a MS type microphone, the Shure VP88. It is a microphone which houses both the capsules inside one microphone. So it is a hassle-free microphone, you can just use it and get a signal out of it directly.
If the other methods of recording mentioned before are applied, there may be significant loss of fidelity due to phase cancellation. Since each microphone records each wave front at a slightly different time, the wave fronts are out of phase. As a result, constructive and destructive interference can occur if both tracks are played back on the same speaker. When playing back stereo recordings, best results are obtained by using two speakers in front of and equidistant from the listener, with the listener located on the center line between the two speakers. That means the listener and the two speakers should form the three vertices of an equilateral triangle. A movie with stereophonic sound has two soundtracks on the film strip. The dialogues and sound effects are channelized between the two tracks in such a way that the stereophonic soundscape created coincides with the positions of the persons and objects. If a jet plane zooms from the left to the right of the screen, its sound will pan from the left speaker to the right speaker. If the noise of a street fight comes from an open window that is to the right of the frame, most of the sound of the street fight will come from the right speaker. The audio engineer has to carefully do this balancing during the final mixing of the film's soundtrack. While stereophonic sound creates a soundscape in front of the listener, surround sound creates an audio landscape all around him using multiple channels. Surround sound can be created not only for cinema, but in sound and light shows, theme gardens, museums, planetarium shows, video games, etc.
Like in the 1950s, 20th Century Fox first used this technique in order to immerse the audience into a much more sound experience, where the sound is not only coming from the front speakers in a left, right or a stereo configuration, but it is also coming from some rear speakers or speakers placed behind or on the side of the audience. This gave a much more natural feeling and a feeling of being in the scene or being there exactly in the spot of action.
In movies, the first surround sound was tried out by Walt Disney in the film Fantasia. Inspired by Rimsky-Korsakov's composition The Flight of the Bumblebee, Disney wanted to create the sound of bumblebees buzzing all over the movie hall. Although he could not achieve the desired result, a diffused sound was created by keeping 54 speakers all over the movie hall. all the speakers played back sound from the same channel. The technique was called Fanta sound.
Now there are several types of surround sound formats which have been developed gradually. Earlier it was like in 70mm films there were 6 magnetic stripes, 3 on each side, which were used for panning any sound of any object which will be moving from left to right of the screen or from right to left of the screen. For example, a steam engine passing from left to right of the screen will be panned in accordance with the movement of the train, so that the sound will also it will be felt that the sound is also moving from left to right. Now this gave a more tangible situation to the audience and a more believable situation for the audience.
Thus, we should never lend one ear to what others are saying. We have to lend both our ears to receive the full significance of a sound signal. Human beings can guess the position of the sound because they are blessed with 2 ears. The brain guesses the location of the sound from the phase difference between the sound reaching the left ear and the right ear. This ability of the brain is called binaural hearing. For recorded sound too, we would like to create a sound environment around us and create an illusion that sound from different sources are coming from different directions. If all the sound is recorded on one track, this illusion cannot be created. This kind of recording is called monophonic recording. But the illusion can be created through stereophonic recording, that is, recording the sound on 2 different tracks and dividing each sound unequally between the 2 tracks. When the 2 tracks are heard on 2 separate speakers, an illusionary soundscape is created around the listener. Stereophonic recording is done using 2 microphones. There are different techniques of placing these mics: the XY technique, the AB technique, and the MS technique. While stereophonic recording creates a soundscape in front of the listener, surround sound creates an audio landscape all around him using multiple channels.